There's a hunter in the suburbs.
Where's my son? Is he gonna kill us?
He's watching you.
He stalks sometimes days, weeks, months in advance.
Careful, cunning, invisible.
Where is he? What have I done wrong? What have I missed?
Is this America's most dangerous serial killer?
What will happen is that it'll become stagnant. You'll feel a need to go out and do it.
Can he be stopped before he tries his luck one more time?
Sooner or later, you're gonna hear from him.
I'm M. William Phelps, investigative journalist, and I have an obsession. Serial killer, cold cases.
Now, nearly 10 years later, investigators say they still need the public's help.
For me, it's personal. My sister-in-law was murdered, and her killer has never been caught. These killers are still out there. Their victims deserve justice. And just one new clue could make all the difference. I don't have a badge, but I do have something the cops don't have. Someone who understands the dark mind of a murderer.
As I started killing again and again, I saw it as a purpose.
Because he is one. Irvine, a comfortable, quiet neighborhood south of Los Angeles. May 4, 1986. Janelle Cruz is 18, a carefree California teenager.
There's no way I'm reading you that one.
Her mom's away on vacation in Mexico, and Janelle has got a friend over.
And the hope that she feels to escape
She
from
couldn't be
the dark.
happier right now. But just outside her window, one of America's most elusive serial killers is carefully biding his time. The killer has been stalking Janelle.
Thank you for coming.
He knows her house. He knows the streets. He knows the escape routes. And he's feeling very confident because he's done this all before and never been caught. Quintessential suburbia. Green lawns, stucco homes. The last place on earth you'd expect evil to come in and take away someone in the community. But this is the hunting grounds of one of the most dangerous serial killers in history. May 5, 1986. Janelle's innocent teenage bedroom is now a shocking crime scene. Janelle has been beaten to death with a pipe wrench, her hands and legs tied, and she's been raped. Soon, detectives realize that Janelle's murder has followed a very particular pattern, and they've seen it before. In 1980, newlyweds Keith and Patty Harrington were murdered in nearby Laguna Niguel. And 1 year later, 28-year-old Manuela Withune was found dead in her bedroom. She lived just 2.5 miles from Janelle Cruz. All 4 victims were bound and beaten to death. The women were raped by a man who sneaked into their homes in the middle of the night. 3 attacks, 4 people dead. By 1986, police in Southern California know they have a serial killer walking their streets. They name him the original Night Stalker. And once again, he disappears into the night. There are patterns here with the Harringtons, the Withune murder, and the Janelle Cruz murder. You know, certain things just pop right out. The way he invades the home, the way he stalks the home, the way that nobody really spots this guy. How did he blend right into this community like a ghost? So how do you begin to get a handle on who this killer might be?
This is the smartest serial killer I've ever seen.
I'm meeting with my old colleague, John Kelly.
This man is very methodical, he's very careful, he's very well planned, he's very patient.
John's a veteran profiler. He knows how to get inside the mind of a killer. But the original Night Stalker? Oh man, this killer is something else.
He's a chameleon.
Yeah.
He blends right into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, he's what nightmares are made of. He's the evil out in the darkness. He's the devil that comes out of the dark pit.
On previous cases, John Kelly used a convicted murderer codenamed 13 to help him understand the mind of a serial killer. This time, I'm bringing something to the table. I went out and found my own guy. He's in prison. There's no way this guy's ever getting out. He's got way too many bodies to his name. We've been talking over a year now. It's absolutely terrifying. But you know, this guy's got something. He's the closest you'll ever want to come to experience what it's like to cross that line into one of the ultimate taboos, the ultimate sin of murder.
So you've got your own serial killer now, Matthew. It's not going to be easy. You want to tell me what it's like?
Well, it's a lot harder than I ever would have thought it would be.
Yeah.
It's this total darkness that surrounds me, Kelly, and just, you know, pushes on every part of me. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you know, you feel like you've been drained because you're hanging on every single word they say. And it's knowing that on the other side of that phone, you're dancing with the devil. Welcome to my world.
It's time for me to introduce my guy to Kelly. His code name? Raven.
Hey. Okay, Raven, listen, the original Night Stalker, why was he so bold and confident in his attacks?
Well, he is bold because he's used to an environment. People do crimes that they're used to in their comfort zone.
You got away with it for a while and then you got caught. What changes in you when you get away with it?
There was a feeling of greatness. There's always been a challenge to break the law, to go against society, to do something no one else done. Once I stepped over that line and killed for the first time, the next day I would be capable of murder without thinking too much of it. Because my moral undertaking that took me across that line in the first place was gone.
And that's what Raven and the original Night Stalker have in common. Getting away with murder makes them stronger. It makes them bolder. And what makes the original Night Stalker even bolder still? The fact that he plays on his home turf, the suburbs.
This isn't your normal, everyday, off the street kind of serial killer that's out at the bar, drinking it up, smoking some weed, doing some drugs, and then he's on the hunt. This guy is obsessive compulsive about focusing in on his victims of choice. I believe he's directing the rage towards his family of origin that abused them.
And that family of origin is middle class.
I believe that. Middle class suburbia.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, a major commonality in this guy's MO.
And it's back in suburbia where I pick up the trail. I'm going to meet with a dedicated cop who has made catching this killer his life's work. homicide investigator for the Orange County Sheriff's Department, Larry Poole. Hey, Larry, thanks for meeting me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Meet
it.
you.
Larry and I are on the streets of Irvine, the neighborhood where Janelle Cruz and Manuela Withune were murdered. Looks about as safe as you can get, doesn't it?
Irvine is a very safe community to live in, so for them to have murders in Irvine to begin with was quite unusual. It's one of the safest cities in America.
So what is the neighborhood and the fact that, you know, these homes are close together, what does it tell us about him and how bold he was?
We know that our offender was brazen. He wasn't frightened by police presence. He wasn't frightened by police patrols. Therefore, he wasn't intimidated by close proximity of neighbors.
It was a
So we already
challenge to
know
him,
that.
really.
It's a challenge. It helps heighten probably his overall excitement,
Right.
being in closer to other
Right.
people as well.
And also, I mean, if I'm a guy, if I'm him, and I'm walking my dog down the street, even right now, if somebody passed us, it would just look like another guy walking his dog.
Yes.
And he could be stalking. He could be casing the place out.
Absolutely.
For over a decade, the 4 murders remain unsolved. Every lead, every suspect has been a dead end. Until DNA provides a link, not to the killer, but to another set of shocking crime scenes. The Orange County attacks were not this killer's first. I'm in Ventura County, California, retracing the bloody footsteps of the most frightening serial killer I've ever investigated. The original Night Stalker. I'm a little uneasy on these streets. He's hunted here before, and so far, no one can tell me that he won't hunt again. It's twilight in suburbia. Everyone's home from work. Kids are doing their homework at the kitchen table. Mom's folding laundry. Dad's reading the newspaper. But our guy, he's out. And he's stalking the neighborhood. He's looking for that house. He's looking for that next victim. He's looking to strike. As soon as that sun goes down and twilight is over, it's time for him to come out and play. In 2000, law enforcement linked 6 separate attacks, 10 murders, to one man, the original Night Stalker. 3 attacks and 4 dead in Irvine, a double murder in Ventura, 2 attacks and 4 dead in Goleta near Santa Barbara. The killing began in 1979 and stopped in 1986. And as far as law enforcement are concerned, he's still out there.
The offender, if he is still alive, he does still represent a threat to the community. So you can't stop looking.
Orange County homicide investigator Larry Poole is leading the task force trying to catch this killer.
He has neighborhoods that he selects that appear to be middle to upper middle class neighborhoods.
The original Night Stalker has a very particular way of going about things. And like all of us, the way you do things can tell a lot about who you are.
Within those neighborhoods, it appears that he selects the victims. So he stalks sometimes days, weeks, months in advance.
In 1980, Charlene Smith had a lot to smile about. Her husband, Larry, was about to become a judge. She had a nice house in the suburbs. The original Night Stalker was about to take all that away from her.
Get up! Shut your mouth! You're not listening to me.
A vibrant, happy life torn apart. How did you determine the victims were murdered?
The victims had several blows to their heads. There was a lot of blood on the wall. The log had been removed from the side of the residence and brought in by the suspect. It appeared that the log had been utilized as the murder weapon. Both victims had been bound. They were found bound with ligatures still attached to their wrists and their ankles.
Was Charlene sexually assaulted?
She was.
From Goleta to Irvine, the murders were almost identical. Surprise attacks late at night, victims bound, raped, and beaten to death, and a well-planned getaway, on foot or a stolen bicycle. But in the Smith attack, the killer left a calling card, a tantalizing clue. The victims were tied with a very particular knot.
So it was tied 4 times, 2 times on each body to the wrist ligatures. I pulled that knot out of evidence, took it to LA County Crime Lab. The knot expert examined the knot and determined that it was a decorative diamond knot.
A diamond knot. It's used by sailors, but also in horseback riding and by the Boy Scouts. It's distinctive and difficult to tie. He's in someone's house in the middle of the night, planning to rape and kill, and he ties this knot? Why?
So tying a diamond knot is difficult. I mean, how the hell did he do it? There's only one way to find out. Unravel it myself and give it a whirl. That's not it. Let's try it again. I mean, this is real. This is impossible to do. I'm thinking that this guy had to tie this knot or learn this knot to throw law enforcement off. That's why he did it. To say, I can do it. And to say, you know what? You're gonna call 10 different experts on diamond knots to see if you can get inside my mind and figure out why I did it or the type of person who did it. That's what he wanted. And that's what he got.
To criminal profiler John Kelly, these elaborate bindings say one thing. He wasn't tying them to stop his victims escaping. He did it because he got off on it.
Knots and bindings are very important to this killer.
What about if there are women out there who were scared off by some nut who wanted to tie them up? Should they come forward?
See, that's something that I think could get this guy caught. There are women that know of this man who have met this man.
Hey.
And this man would be very focused on having power and control. And that would mean, in his case, I believe, a bondage fetish. The bondage is all about the power and the control, which we know serial killers have in their DNA.
There's one man out there who knows rapists and killers better than most. Because he lives among them. Raven.
Now, you've known some rapists. Tell me about some experience you've talked to them about in there.
I have talked to several, and they are always trying to say that they were innocent of the crime. They're trying to downplay the sexual aspect of their crime because that is not a well-liked scenario in prison.
You can't hide from who you are, right, Raven?
That's right. You're going to turn your hand over and we're going to read between the lines. We're going to see what really is their motive behind it. Just in the way they act, their actions around, say, female guards, their comments they'd like to make on female guards.
I think I know what Raven's getting at here. Guys with extreme sex fetishes find it hard to suppress their true nature. And that means someone out there, perhaps a girlfriend, may have an inkling of who this guy is. There's another thing I've learned about this killer. He knew the areas where he hunted like the back of his hand.
It seems that the offender likes to use creek beds that run through neighborhoods as kind of his lifeline into and out of the areas. It's a good place to surveil from. It's a good place to stage from. A good place to disappear. It's a prudent choice tactically.
So my man Larry Poole is exactly right when he says our guy loved the tactical advantage. Because he murders in suburbia right here, and then he runs down the sidewalk and he comes over to here, and what do we have? A trail leading directly to the creek, where he can what? Escape. This is what he did. Right down this hill, right into the creek bed, and right in through that bamboo, into the woods, and gone.
Tactics. This guy is all about tactics. He's careful. He's planned. It makes me think of the term military precision. It makes me think military.
I believe he does have a military background.
Without a doubt.
This guy knows how to secure and control victims. He's learned that somewhere. This person has learned how to surveil a complete area. He's very focused on the exits out of the neighborhood. See, that again can be reconnaissance in the military. He had to learn this stuff somewhere. This just doesn't come naturally to you.
And Larry Poole also likes the military theory.
I believe that there could be a military connection. It's my personal belief that while he may have employed military tactics, he may have been in the military for at least some time in his life, I don't think he would have been very successful. I don't believe our offender would be very good at taking orders, following directives, being commanded.
So we're starting to get a picture of just who this killer might be. He's middle class, blends into suburban neighborhoods easily, was probably raised in one. He's athletic. He has a fetish for bondage. Plus, he may have a background in the military. He's a master of surveillance, of tactical planning, taking prisoners. He's a killing machine, and he's still out there. Between 1979 and 1986, the original Night Stalker hunted, attacked, and murdered 10 people in Southern California. He haunted these streets, and now he's haunting me. He was savage, yet methodical. A sadistic sex killer who left tantalizing fragments of evidence. But he was a ghost, escaping into the night, floating, just out of reach.
This is the kind of offense where once you've dug into it, it's difficult to let go of. And you have so many people, so many lives that have been touched by this offender, people who still live in fear.
This killer kept the best cops in Southern California awake at night. And at the same time, up in Northern California, another detective was losing sleep over his own elusive predator.
I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would wonder, where is he? What have I done wrong? What have I missed?
In 1979, Sergeant Larry Crompton is working one of the most difficult cases of his career. A serial rapist has been terrorizing communities around Sacramento, Stockton, and Modesto.
Plan on taking any precautions?
I put locks on my doors. Peepholes in just last week.
I don't know. I have a gun, but I still don't feel safe being, at home alone.
He has over 50 attacks to his name, and he always gets away. Police call him the East Area Rapist.
A lot of times what he would do is shine a flashlight in their eyes, and he would put a knife to their throat and tell them, do exactly as I tell you or I'll kill you.
Larry, what effect did this guy have on that community?
People were afraid, and gun sales went up. With me, I made sure the windows were locked every night.
So how did he mainly get into the houses?
A lot of times, what he would do is go into the house while the people were not there. Set it up, leave a window unlocked in one of the rooms, and then come in through that window.
Why, that's a brazen, bold serial rapist.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. One of the worst that California's ever seen.
Then, Larry and his colleagues hear about the original Night Stalker murders in Southern California, and they notice a pattern.
So we got the reports. You had the tying up, everything that happened, everything that he did. I felt certain that it was him.
So was Larry Crompton's hunch correct? In 2001, new advances in DNA profiling provide the answer. The samples from the Southern California murders and the Northern California rapes, they're a match. The original Night Stalker is the East Area rapist.
I've driven 300 miles just to see where all this started. I'm coming to Sacramento for answers. Because the answers are where he began, where he made his mistakes, where he left clues, back in the beginning. That's where the answers are.
Before he graduated to murder, the original Night Stalker used all the same tricks he put into play as a serial killer. Attack in the dead of night, a flashlight in the eyes, bindings, rape. He has escape routes planned, running into nearby bushland, riding off on a bicycle.
What you'll find is on these rapes, he would be close to a thoroughfare, a freeway, or someplace where 10 minutes he was in traffic. So on a bicycle, he could get back to his car, which maybe was only 2 or 3 blocks away, and then he'd be gone.
This is one of his escape routes in Sacramento. Out of the suburbs, across the American River, and down onto these trails. It's so clear now. This guy, he runs, he rides, he's athletic. He thinks he's smarter than the cops, and he thinks he's faster than them too.
Thinking about this, being here right at the scene, suburbia right there, the highway right here. I can just feel him here. I can feel his presence here. All these bikers going by me, people walking their dogs. This is where he feels comfortable, right in suburbia, right enmeshed, right in with everybody, because he's one of them. That's what it is. He's one of them.
So what do we learn about the original Night Stalker from his past as a rapist? Here's one thing. He likes to read about himself in the papers.
Did he up the ante and go after women with men because the media maybe poked him a little bit and said, you can't do this?
Yes, as the news media come out and said there was never a man, his next hit was with a man. When the news media come out and said there was never a dog, his next hit, he carried their dog into the house with him.
As a rapist, the original Night Stalker had a shocking taste for cruelty.
Everything that he did, everything that he said, was to make sure they were terrorized.
Left bound in another room, husbands were forced to listen as their wives were attacked, helpless to intervene.
He put dishes on the back of the mail and said, if I hear these, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your wife. I'll cut the ears off your children and bring them to you, that type thing.
There were many husbands who never got over that experience.
What does that do to suburbia when a tree branch rubbing up against a window becomes the devil? Well, maybe the devil, maybe Satan is outside my window tonight. If it was me, I'd be sitting in a chair in front of the door with a loaded shotgun. And that's no way to live. That's what this guy, this serial rapist / serial killer, that's what he did to these communities.
And the cruelty just didn't stop. In 1978, one of the rape victims started getting hang-up calls. Police put a recording device on her phone, and before long, she heard the voice of the original Night Stalker.
Hello? Hello?
She almost fainted. It was that bad. It brought back all those memories, and that's why it's so difficult to live with.
Terrorizing her once wasn't enough.
He's a sadist. I truly believe that. Look at what he's done with the couples. He has humiliated and tortured the man mentally while he is physically humiliating and sexually torturing the woman that he's raping.
The voice of a killer on the line. It's become a theme in my life lately. Raven follows me in my sleep, and in the daytime, he's just a phone call away.
In a few of the rape cases, he would call his victims on the phone and threaten them again. Why would he do that?
To keep them silent. To strike fear in their victims. To keep them from going to the police. Keep them from remembering things that might eventually capture him.
There are many out there who suffer in silent fear of this killer. But some do not. There are eyewitnesses. There are people with memories that will not fade. It's 1976. Disco plays on the radio. Skateboards rule the streets. And in Sacramento, California, the original Night Stalker is a serial killer who's just starting out, taking deadly baby steps.
Here's the thing, this is ground zero. This is where it really began for him. He picks neighborhoods, not victims. Victims come second. First, he zeroes in on a neighborhood, feels comfortable there, and then he chooses somebody.
Sometimes I can recall it like it was just yesterday.
In 1976, he chooses one of his first victims.
It was about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Married with a 3-year-old son. We'll call her Alicia.
My husband had just left for work.
Alicia has bravely agreed to tell me her story. I'm hoping it holds some clues.
I heard the garage door close, and right after that, my 3-year-old son came and got into bed with me. We used to like to snuggle in the morning. And shortly thereafter, I heard someone running down the hall. And then I looked up, and there was a flashlight flashing in my eyes. And a man stood over me with a ski mask on and telling me with clenched teeth and shut up or he'd kill me. So the next thing he did, he had this ritual of tearing cloths and tearing sheets. My heart was beating so rapidly, it was like it was coming through my chest. He then proceeded to tie our wrists and our ankles with shoelaces. And then he took the cloths and gagged us both and blindfolded us. That's what I remember most is the fear. The fear. Was he going to kill us? You know, where's my son? Is he going to kill us? When he untied my legs, then I knew he was going to rape me. But you know, I don't remember much about the rape. All I remember was the fear.
I just want to thank you. Thank you for showing your courage. I think it's going to help. Were there any traits or characteristics that stood out?
Well, I would like to mention that he was poorly endowed. That's not a behavior, but that is a characteristic of him. And he, just his behavior of the shut up. If he said that once, he said it 10 times.
Shut up!
And the clenched teeth, and the tearing of the cloths and the sheets.
How much time do you think he spent entirely in there?
At least an hour and a half.
Really?
Yeah,
That long?
I think so. Because again, his methodical behavior in the beginning of tearing the sheets and opening up my dresser drawers, it was like he was maybe planning what he was going to do. I wasn't sure because he just took so much time doing that. It wasn't like he rushed down the hall and raped me and left. No, he was very methodical in his behavior.
To me, one thing leaps out about Alicia's story. Her husband was in the military. He was working at a nearby base that morning, and she was in the reserves.
At the time of the rape, he mentioned, you really looked good at the officers' club. Now, maybe he saw a photo of me in my military uniform. Maybe he was going through my drawers and saw an ID card. I don't know the answer to that.
Or did he actually see her at the base? Does this add weight to the theory that the original Night Stalker has some kind of military connection?
Do you feel that he's out there?
You know, I feel that if he's out there, we're gonna get him. He could be in jail, he could be dead. But I feel, and hopefully after this interview, someone's gonna come forward and say, I know who this guy is.
Alicia is one of over 50 rape victims. That we know of. And today she's feeling strong. Not everyone who came in contact with the original Night Stalker can say the same.
For years, I was full of hatred, full of bitterness, full of anger, and full of feelings of revenge. It took a lot of time for me to forgive. And that doesn't mean that I'm forgetting what he did to me. We'll all have the scars, but just to forgive, there is certainly a freedom in that. He doesn't live rent-free in my head anymore.
There may be other survivors who haven't come forward. Do they hold a piece of detail that could break this case?
She did make a point to tell me that he was not well endowed. So what does that tell us about who he is?
Well, you know, I've talked to other serial killers who have told me they have had an issue with being well endowed. So, I mean, this is not news to me. This is not strange to me. I think not being well endowed has definitely created some insecurity and some inferiority in this killer.
But there's more than insecurity going on here. He brutalized his victims. He has a rage against women. This is part of his makeup. So what else made him who he is? I'm reaching further back into the past of this killer to when he was younger, less experienced, less careful.
And for me, the clues are right here on this street. It's all here. The pieces of the puzzle are here, waiting to be put together. He left a trail. It can be found.
The original Night Stalker is by far the smartest serial killer that John Kelly and I have ever encountered. At least 10 murders, over 50 rapes, all meticulously planned. As he killed again and again, he always stayed one step ahead of police. But one thing he can't do is go back in time and fix his mistakes.
The closer you can get to the point of origin where the offender began often yields the highest potential for having identified the offender during the course of the investigation. The offender's younger, he's evolving, he's more inclined to make mistakes.
He was always so careful about his identity. The mask, the gloves. Back in the 1970s and early 80s, he didn't realize that the DNA he was leaving at his crime scenes would become so important. It's so familiar to us today that you forget that forensic DNA testing didn't even begin until 1985. DNA connected many of the original Night Stalker's murders. Each connection offered new evidence. DNA led back to his early rape attacks and the eyewitness accounts of the survivors. And now, DNA may tell us even more.
Well, DNA advances are considerable. Their ancestral information can be determined by DNA. So we're utilizing that as best we can to determine the ancestry, the origin of the offender.
What country did he come from? What country did his parents come from? Forensic scientists are working today to pin that down. And just around the corner is something even bigger.
In the near future, using only their DNA, we may be able to build a physical picture of somebody. Imagine, just like a high-tech version of an identikit sketch. Hair color, eye color, skin color. Could be just years away.
The killer always talked through clenched teeth, trying to disguise his voice. Was he hiding an accent? Was he English or European? DNA might reveal that soon. And I believe there's another clue that could lead in that direction. There's a poem the killer sent to the media when he was just starting out. He called it Excitement's Crave.
All those mortals surviving birth.
Is the devil hiding in the detail here? Odd turns of phrase.
Leisure tips, excitement seeking.
They seem to have their roots in English literature, and other words seem very British to me.
See you in the press or on TV.
You know, you could say that an educated, highly educated man wrote that poem, or you could say that a man went to the library and made himself look highly educated, right? But one thing the poem does tell me, that I believe 100%, that this guy is from European roots, because you can't hide who you are. And it's all over that poem.
The original Night Stalker's last murder, that we know of, was Janelle Cruz in 1986. So what has he been doing since then? His DNA doesn't match anyone on the California prison database. So he's not rotting in San Quentin. But is he killing somewhere else? Is he dead? Or did he just stop killing?
Not these guys. They don't stop. Sooner or later, if he's alive, you're gonna hear from him.
There's no way he can stop. Not a serial rapist. That's in the mind, and that you're not gonna change. That's what he has to do.
This case reminds me of the notorious serial killer, Dennis Rader. You might know him by the nickname he gave himself, BTK. Bind, torture, kill. He killed 10 people in violent sexual murders from 1974 to 1991. And then he stopped.
Following hours after the arrest were filled with a frenzy of activity.
When he was finally arrested in 2004, 13 years after his last murder, he told police he was planning to kill again. Serial killers can cool off, but they never go cold.
You think he's gonna kill again?
That's a possibility. That's part of, I think, what compels many of us to search and search hard.
Look at Raven. He's a serial killer. And the only thing that stopped him was getting caught. So what does Raven think happened to the original Night Stalker?
I think he got scared. We as killers are scared all the time of being found out. Our biggest fear is being found out.
But that doesn't mean this killer is finished.
As far as cooling off, I mean, I don't think it's really cooled off. And he still thinks about it all the time. He can pretty much just relive his own experiences with the people he's already killed. And pretty soon, once it will happen, is that it'll become stagnant. You'll feel a need to go out and do it.
And those that know the original Night Stalker the best, they aren't taking any chances.
Does this guy scare you?
To a certain degree, yes. He's certainly changed the way I live. When you know this case inside out, it affects the way you perceive things. At least it has for me. So I'm a very light sleeper. I'm a heavily armed sleeper. I keep my house, pretty safe.
So who is the original Night Stalker? He has strong connections to his main hunting grounds, Sacramento, Goleta, Irvine. He may have lived or worked in those places. He's a regular-looking guy, not out of place on one of these quiet suburban streets. He's meticulous, careful, may have a military background. He's very athletic. In his personal life, he's not well endowed and has a fetish for bondage. And today, he'd be between 55 and 65 years old.
So, Larry, why is this case so cold?
Well, it's not cold, it's a hot case now. We have a lot of resources dedicated to the investigation. There are a lot of people working it passionately. It's not a cold case, it's a hot case.
Is it going to be solved?
I believe so. Optimistically, I get up every day believing that a solution can come, and can come that day.
It's all here. It's just a matter of that one piece of evidence tying everything together.
That's right. And that one piece of evidence can come in the next moment.
Do you know someone who fits the original Night Stalker profile? Are you a survivor who stayed silent? It's not too late to come forward. We need your help.
That's the only way it's going to be solved. A lot of people during these rapes would hear something and not call in. That's why he got away. Now's the time to call in and follow up on it.